Swadee Khan, very good evening and welcome to Thai PBS World Tonight. I'm Nam Bunang.
I'm Tulip Naksomphopla.
And we'll begin tonight with the latest on the COVID-19 situation, especially the news of the transport minister who has been confirmed that he is infected with COVID-19, and apparently he's the first cabinet minister to be infected with the virus. Transport Minister Saksayam Chitchop is confirmed to be infected with COVID-19 after he developed a fever of 38 degrees and was admitted to Buriram hospital for observation and test this morning. The minister had already received his first inoculation against COVID-19 and is due to receive the second dose today. Saksayam earlier denied a rumor that he had visited an entertainment venue in Tonglaw area on March 25th, but one of his staff members who visited a Tonglaw pub has tested positive for the virus, prompting him to order the rest of his staff to go for COVID tests and to isolate themselves for 14 days, and that includes himself as a safety precaution. And because of the news that he's been infected with COVID-19, the cabinet meeting, half of the members went missing because they decided to
went missing
because this is something that never happened before. Apparently, the cabinet ministers decided to isolate themselves after the news of Saksayam Chitchop being infected with COVID-19, and half of them decided not to turn up at the meeting today. One of them was the education minister who decided to isolate herself as well.
It's a right thing to do, isolate yourself if you're a high-risk group, but it's all of a sudden, so it's pretty chaotic.
Yes, and quite interesting enough is that recently there was a photo of Saksayam and the public health minister Anutin Chanvirakul sitting right next together.
With mask or no mask?
No mask,
Okay, maybe it's a time for Mr. Anutin to go get tested again. And for Mr. Saksayam, he has not revealed his timeline, like full timeline. He had where he has been in the past 2 weeks. So right now people are asking to see his timeline. So we are probably going to get to see it soon. Hopefully, we should be able to see it soon, or at least the official that have to do the trace can just, see where he was and then verify whatever it is, or just identify who is in the high-risk group.
Yes, and we can see that many of the people have been infected, and it has affected many people, no matter it's politicians, people in the entertainment industry, or even the members of such embassies as well.
Well, the COVID-19 virus is very indiscriminative.
Yes.
It doesn't really pick or care who you are.
Exactly.
It's just, I'm going to infect you.
So that means everyone has to keep their guards really high, and now especially the fact that the entertainment venue cluster has spread to at least 15 provinces already. Everyone has to be careful, especially the fact that next week is Songkran holidays as well. So even the government has urged people to take care of themselves, to practice social distancing, keep wearing face masks, and wash their hands frequently. And if possible, just don't go anywhere. And if you really miss your family, just go through a video call instead.
Virtual meeting. So talking about the entertainment venue cluster, the latest big cluster in Thailand. So far, this one in Bangkok and in its suburb has spread through 15 provinces and in fact 291 people in just 2 weeks. This is how many people we discover, and they're probably going to be more because they are doing proactive screening right now.
Yeah.
Dr. Yong, which is a very famous virologist of Thailand, has confirmed that the new infections related to this cluster is the UK strain of the coronavirus, which can spread 1.7 times faster than the normal strain, and it is highly contagious. So Bangkok alone recorded 200 cases related to the Tonglaw cluster. Tonglaw is the neighborhood that has this entertainment venue. followed by 23 cases in Chonburi, 18 cases in Samut Prakan, 14 cases in Suphanburi, 13 cases in Nonthaburi, 7 cases in Nakhon Pathom, 5 cases in Pathum Thani, 2 each in Chiang Mai, Chumpon, and Samut Sakhon, and 1 case each in Loi, Kanchanaburi, Tak, Lopburi, and Sa Kaeo. The latest report said that more infections related to the cluster were recorded in Yasothon, Phetchabun, and Chiang Rai provinces. The CCSA has said that over 6,000 people related to entertainment venues in Bangkok have already been tested, with many results still pending. She said, the spokesperson said that the CCSA subcommittee is yet to readjust zoning in line with the situation in each province, but will discuss this issue with the interim ministry in the next few days. The spokesperson, which Dr. Apisamai Srirangsan, recommended that travelers check the authorities in their destination provinces about travel restrictions before they travel. And of course, we went it's a Thong Lo night entertainment venue, and people just ask, how's the police doing? Because this is all happened under the watch of the police officer at the Thong Lo police station. So the latest report is that there are 9 police officers at this Thong Lo police station are infected and have been admitted for treatment at the Police General Hospital, 22 of their colleagues being quarantined for 14 days. All Thong Lo police officers will be inoculated at the Police General Hospital, and the police station was disinfected yesterday, so members of the public can visit the station as usual. And about the police officers, there was a report that the police actually said that all these 9 officers got infected because they were doing some kind of inspection at these night entertainment venues.
Right.
Probably very thoroughly inspections. Anyway, as for today, Thailand recorded 334 new infections, raising the cumulative infections since early last year to 29,905. And there are 1,741 people still being treated in hospitals, including 13 severe cases, with 7 on respirators. The death toll now remains at 95.
And because of the latest wave of COVID-19 infections, there are a couple of provinces that have already imposed restrictions, especially for travelers from red zones. That includes Bangkok, Pathum Thani, Samut Prakan, Nakhon Pathom, and Nonthaburi. And the 2 provinces are Buriram and Bungkan, which have imposed restrictions on all travelers from the 5 red zone provinces by requiring mandatory quarantine to prevent the spread of COVID-19. An announcement from the Communicable Disease Committee of Buriram issued on Tuesday states that all travelers from the 5 red zones provinces will be subject to 14 days of quarantine upon arrival in the province, or to 600 baht rapid test at Buriram Provincial Hospital at their own expense. If the tests are negative, the travelers will not be quarantined. Travelers from non-red zones are free to travel in Buriram without quarantine or testing. Meanwhile, in Bungkan province, travel restrictions have also been imposed for travelers from the 5 red zone provinces, but they will also be required to isolate themselves at home or at least 10 days. So these are the 2 provinces that has imposed restrictions on travelers from the 5 provinces.
So as Dr. Apisamai, the spokesperson of CCSA, said that you should check the regulation of your destination before you travel, because this coming week is, we can call it a golden week for Thailand, and most people would just travel either they go back to their hometown or they will just go for a little vacation somewhere. Right. So it's going to be a busy week, and for a lot of places, probably going to be a quiet week.
And many people are so worried that during the Songkran holidays, it might cause more infections. So the government has been warning that maybe, not the government, it's the the medical personnel, the virologists have been warning that it might not be safe to go to travel during Songkran holidays, because like if you go through if you sit in buses and all these things, the atmosphere is quite cramped, so people are
with bad ventilation.
Yes, bad ventilation and cramped areas. People are also concerned that if the number of infections will increase during the Songkran holidays, especially the fact that this time around it's the UK strain and is very contagious compared to the previous strain as well.
Talking about Dr. Yong Puvarawan, he usually communicated to a lot of people through his Facebook post. And the latest post, he was talking about this Songkran holiday, how we should use the virtual visit instead of the real visitation to the elderly. As you know, the elderly is actually the highest risk, the most at-risk group to get infected and will have severe symptoms. So Dr. Yong says that the current rate of COVID-19 infection is more serious than a year ago, and suggests that the tradition of visiting the elderly to receive their blessings be replaced with virtual visits to reduce the risk of infection. So citing the triple-digit daily new infections this month, mostly related to entertainment venues in Bangkok, compared to the dual-digit increases during the same period last year. He blamed the worsening situation on lax restrictions and the fact that most of the infected are young people who show mild or no symptoms at all, unknowingly spreading the disease. Dr. Yong said that assuming that the infections this year are 10 times higher than they were last year, and the preventive measures are 10 times less effective than they were last year, that means that the severity of the pandemic this year will be 100 times greater than it was last year. That sounds really scary. He said that last year the Songkran festival was effectively cancelled. All related activities were banned. Bars and pubs were closed, and most people strictly observed social distancing and wore face masks, but all these measures have been eased this year. With Songkran next week, when many people will travel to visit their relatives across the country, Dr. Yong admitted that he is very worried about the high risk of increased infections, especially among the elderly. So he said, avoiding unnecessary travel and making online visits instead are the best way to reduce the rate of infection. And he's also added that the stimulating the economy through the promotion of travel conflicts with the containment of the disease, which will backfire on the economy. So it's a very, I would say, difficult situation. You are trying to revive the economy.
Yep.
Try to encourage people to travel and spend more. When they spend more, it means they have to go outside, sit at the restaurant, hanging out and shopping and such. But then right now, this week, just this particular week, when the number of new cases just spike so high, it's not a good idea to go out and about and do so much social activities.
Definitely. And because of the COVID-19 pandemic, since early last year up until now, it has been going on for some time, as well as the state of emergency that has been imposed since last year, and it has been extended to more than 10 times already. So many people have been wondering whether it troubles rights and freedom of the people. And the prolonged imposition of the state of emergency is questioned by human rights panelists after over a year under the emergency decree declared on March 26 last year. Such enforcement of law has a direct impact on the people's freedom. The imposition is reviewed periodically by the cabinet and has been extended 11 times already, and the latest one is extended until May 2021. It is ever continuing because the decision is made by the executive branch without checks from the legislative branch, which has no power over the issue. And this is according to Patniyom Sin, a lecturer from the Faculty of Law of Chulalongkorn University. Pat also said that in Thailand, 3 issues are particularly addressed, namely the ever-continuing extension of the state of emergency, accountability, and discrimination. Pat was one of the panelists of human rights defenders and experts speaking at an event which is called Human Rights Perspective after 1-year anniversary under emergency decree. The panel agreed that the imposition of the state of emergency in Thailand was not in line with the International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights, or the ICCPR. Pat explained that a state of emergency could be justified by imminent threats, threatening survival of a nation with no appropriate laws to handle them, and once used proportionally must be taken into consideration. Such restrictions in Thailand might not be necessary, the expert pointed out, as the Communicable Disease Act already exists and could similarly control the situation. The concern is that the COVID-19 pandemic is being used as a pretext to announce the state of emergency, and that is what he said, and the emergency measures could potentially be exploited for political interest to silence dissent as well as invade people's privacy. Let's have a listen to what they had to say.
เหมือนวันนี้เหตุในการที่จะบอกว่าจะยกเลิกพรกฉุกเฉินเนี่ยเกี่ยวกับโควิดเนี่ยประกาศตัวเนี้ยยกเลิกยังไงคือเป็นศูนย์แล้วฮะไม่มีผู้ติดเชื้อในประเทศแต่ปีที่แล้วมันมีระยะเวลาตั้งนานไม่ใช่เหรอครับที่ประเทศไทยไม่มีผู้ติดเชื้อเลยทำไมไม่ยกเลิกอ่ะแสดงว่าอันนั้นไม่ใช่เหตุหรอใช่ไหมครับก็คือประกาศแต่ต้นมันไม่มีเหตุแล้วพอไปใช้กฎหมายฉุกเฉินไม่ตรงเจตอารมณ์มันก็เลยไม่มีเหตุในการยกเลิกแล้วก็ไปใช้ฉุกเฉินถ้าจนเป็นปกติมันก็บิดเบี้ยวกันไปใหญ่ครับ
Another panelist, Poon Sukcharan, a member of the Thai Lawyers for Human Rights, told the forum that at least 457 people have been charged for allegedly violating the emergency decree in the past year while exercising their political rights. This has nothing to do with the disease control measures under the special laws, highlighting how the state of emergency is being used discriminately in Thailand.
การชุมนุมในพื้นที่เปิดเนี่ยก็ไม่สามารถชุมนุมได้นะคะถึงแม้ว่าพอเป็นประเด็นการเมืองขึ้นมาแต่ว่าถ้าเป็นกิจกรรมอื่นเนี่ยจัดในพื้นที่โล่งหรืออะไรเงี้ยก็สามารถจัดได้อันนี้คือการเลือกปฏิบัติและนำตัวพรกฉุกเฉินเนี่ยมาใช้อย่างที่ไม่ตรงวัตถุประสงค์นะคะ
The event was hosted by Amnesty International Thailand, also featured an annual report on human rights situations around the world. The annual report on human rights situations stated that for the year 2020, Thailand saw no significant change from the preceding year. The areas of concern in Thailand, however, lied in enforced disappearance, torture, and other ill treatment, repression of dissent, freedom of expression, human rights defenders, and refugees, according to the report.
Very interesting. I mean, there's a lot of people that doesn't like the idea of having this emergency decree keep extending, even though the reason given by the government is part of the disease control measures. But the expert said that they believe that the Communicable Disease Act should be enough to make people obliged to all this restriction. But it already has been extended 11 times, and I don't think it's going to be the last, since right now the case number is spiking.
It's increasing like every single day, especially from the entertainment venue cluster. So it might be another excuse for the government to keep extending
another reason
to extend the state of emergency for another few times.
Right.
But many of the panelists already said that it could be another excuse.
Yes, that's what they said. And the government will say it's a reason.
Yeah.
Whatever it is probably going to get extended for the 12th time. We will know at the end of May. Hopefully the situation will be better by then. Anyway, let's move on to something lighter. We have been presenting to you on every Wednesday, we have a column called Home Away. We will learn about foreigners that have been living in Thailand, trying to make Thailand their home. So this week, we will also continue to get to know this Australian director, advertising film director, more, Adrian Velde. And let's see what does he think about Bangkok. What does he think about being a part of crazy, hectic, yet amazing metropolis like Bangkok, and how this is interesting. How COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated film production industry into full digital transformation.
Living for more than a decade in Thailand is long enough to alter Adrian's perception of the country. Some things he thought were bizarre when he first arrived are not so strange anymore. Nevertheless, he's still fascinated by the Thai traditions, his experience through his film production work.
There's a beautiful tradition of paying respect at the beginning of a shoot. So you do merit effectively at a sort of little makeshift shrine that we build on the shoot. And there's a real beauty to that. It focuses the crew, everyone kind of comes together. There's a moment of reflection, a pause before the madness of the film shoot starts. And that's quite beautiful. And that was something that I'd obviously never seen in the West. Obviously in Australia we don't do that. But I really liked the humility and the beauty of that experience. It was great. Yeah.
Then I asked Adrian what it's like to live in a city which he calls a super crazy yet amazing metropolis.
Obviously Bangkok's a super crazy place, hectic, the traffic's mad, all that kind of stuff. But you can have these food experiences, or you can have these sort of cultural experiences, which when you pinch yourself and you stop and you go, hang on, I'm Australian, I'm living here in this amazing metropolis, you sort of appreciate it a bit more. I mean, you've got to stop and got to think about it, and you kind of go, okay, I'm having this great food experience, or I'm having this, alleyway, side of the road food experience, which is really, really interesting and delicious and tasty. And you go, that is not available to me as a Westerner where I come from. And that's unique. I mean, that's the thing. That's the novelty of living in a foreign city. There's so much to discover, and I don't think you can discover all of Bangkok in one lifetime. There's so much stuff, Chinatown, and all this really interesting stuff that the locals can take you to, and you can kind of discover if you've got time. But there's so much to discover in this city. It's fabulous, beautiful.
The coronavirus pandemic has not only upended people's lives, but also transformed most industries around the world, including film production. It's been pushed into a full digital transformation. Adrian tells me why he thinks this change is so compelling.
Because in our industry, we've seen two things happen in the last sort of 4 or 5 years, actually a little bit longer, is the move to full digital transformation in our industry. And this has affected everything. It's not just the way we shoot on digital cameras, but it's also now the way we present materials. I mean, the shoot we did last week, we had our film crew with no director actually on set. The director was in Turkey. We had a client in the Netherlands. We had the agency in the Philippines. In fact, we had clients all over the place. In Singapore, all over. It was a multi-region campaign. No one was actually on set apart from our crew. It was the most extraordinary thing. And if you think about, I mean, I was just saying to a friend last night, if you think about how much they've actually saved, there would be tens of thousands of dollars that would have been saved in per diems, air travel, accommodation, all that stuff. And normally we would have, in addition to the director, we would have 5, 6 agencies flying in, clients flying in, so they're all on set normally. I'm sure the clients are going to be looking and going, okay, we've just saved about $50,000, $80,000 by not flying people in. We've just shot 4 commercials with no problem, all via the internet. We've got 5G here in Thailand, as you know now, so that was all running through 5G, streaming to their laptops while they're sitting at home in quarantine watching a shoot take place. There's a pretty strong argument from a client's point of view of not going back to the status quo of flying people to set. Can you imagine how compelling that argument would be, right, for for a client to go, okay, that line item, travel and accommodation, not to mention the disruption of a client flying to another country to do a shoot, that all has been dealt with through the digital transformation of our industry. So these products were maybe sort of sitting off there in the wings, and now everyone's having to adopt them because of out of necessity. So yeah, I think what it's saying is it's difficult for us now to predict where the market's going to go because it's just changing so quickly. I mean, the profile of the industry has completely changed in the last 12 months.
And that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, because last week he was talking about high production value Thailand has to offer at a very good price compared to a lot of countries. If it's in this region, we can compare to the Singapore, and we are pretty good with the talent, with the technology, so we can be quite competitive.
Right, and we've got some breaking news here. The Bangkok Metropolitan Administration has announced that all Songkran celebrations will be cancelled, and this is in light of the new COVID-19 cluster as well. And this came from the Deputy Governor of the BMA as well here. So it has been advised that the people are supposed to do the Songkran Prao, where you pour water over the Buddha statues at home instead of going outside. And this is from the Thai news agency, which has posted just 2 minutes ago.
So it's going to be quite quiet Songkran this year.
And dry as well. So
And dry.
it's going to be pretty much the same as last year, where Songkran celebrations will be very quiet, very dry, and it will be a little bit somber as well.
Yeah, but we just have to, everybody just have to sacrifice in a short run. So hopefully soon enough we will be able to have a chance to come back and thrive again.
Come back and live our normal lives, which will be the same as the pre-COVID-19 levels.
Not sure if it's going to be the same.
Not
right?
the same, but like we can
hopefully
live,
it's more lively.
Yeah, more lively, and we can live like as normal as possible. But
Right.
for this time, just be safe and take care of yourselves.
Stay away from each other, like we're doing right
Yes.
now. Very
Yep.
Wear masks, washing hands, social distancing, and just use the tracing app so you know where you have been and people can trace.
Definitely. And that wraps up tonight's edition of Thai PBS World Tonight. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow. สวัสดี
ส
ค่ะ
วัสดีค่ะ